McDavid and Draisaitl are going to play 2025, but
they're really spreading out the ice time for the Calgary Demon.
yeah, Kadri's over 20. Cy Young Bennett, his minutes suck.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever and wherever you're watching or listening. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I'm your host, Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy. And joining me for the next hour to talk about just how great Jason Robertson is, our single entry assassin, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, buddy?
2 hat tricks this weekend on an island game yesterday. I've been, barking about Robertson all season. Maybe he gets some recognition finally. I don't know. He's the man. Stars, on the other hand, not a great team, but he's the man.
Yeah, I was just doing a little bit of writing earlier today for season-long fantasy hockey. He's top 10 in the league amongst all forwards over the last 2 years, WAR per 60 minutes. Like all forwards, not just rookie or second-year players or guys under 25 or anything like that. Like all forwards, he's definitely come out and been great over his first 100-plus games of his career. Yeah, back-to-back hat tricks. Not a bad job by him. Should talk about some winners we had over the weekend because I saw some people definitely had some very good nights. I saw, I believe, Saturday night, El Tango took first in the 333, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And Chris Nagus took down second in the $12 single entry. And then I saw Rishi take down first place in the Yahoo for a $350 first prize over on Yahoo. So congrats.
Beat our slapdick boss, Jake Harry.
Yeah, always like seeing Tommy Nation 1 down in second place with an Awesemo subscriber just above him. So Rishi, Nagus, and El Tango, congrats to you guys. I believe El Tango, one of the subscribers that is going to be heading to Nashville this weekend for the Fantasy Hockey World Championship, along with a bunch of others here at Awesemo, including our boss, Jake Harry. I had a pretty decent night on Saturday night. Calgary late night hammer. Calgary won. Really came through for me. I think they were in on all 4 goals. Some of the guys were in on all 4 goals, or at least 3 of the 4. So actually, I was in second when I went to bed after the game finished, and then I saw some sort of stat correction move me down to third in the $4.20 max. I mean, those things happen. Whatever. Still went about 10x that night, so we'll take that. How'd you do over the weekend? I did not do well yesterday. I bageled yesterday. Had a good Saturday night. How'd you do?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't cash NHL on Saturday night. I cashed MMA, cashed NASCAR yesterday. Had a good night in hockey last night. I swapped it, swapped in Max Pacioretty because there was no news about it. And then they're like, oh, he's back. By the way, he's back. And he was like 5%, which was nice. But Shea Theodore didn't do anything for me. I still went 3x. So we take those nights, we move on. Tonight is quite a mess. On DraftKings, you could literally do everything. Pricing is absurd tonight.
Yeah, let's talk about that before, we get into all these games, because obviously we're going to talk about pricing and ownership, et cetera, et cetera. We do that every slate for every game anyways. But tonight is a little bit different because as people noticed in our Discord as they were checking the pricing today over on DraftKings, as they were starting to do their own prep work, people were wondering about the pricing that we're seeing today, because we are seeing some absolutely ridiculous pricing over on DraftKings. Both Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk from Calgary top line under 6K over on DraftKings. You see the 2 wingers from the Edmonton Oilers that will be used on the top power play, Kane and Hyman, in the low 5s. If you look over at Boston, David Pasternak and Brad Marchand, a combined 12,500 on DraftKings today. We've seen those guys at 8K plus at times. So, at least for Marchand, there could be something approaching $2,000 in savings off his price. Toronto too, we talked about how up and down, let's say, that line has been this year. But again, they're coming in very reasonably owned. John Tavares is $5,700 today on DraftKings. I don't remember the last time seeing him that cheap. It was probably back when he was with the Islanders at some point. There are a lot of top end players and top end lines that are priced down today on DraftKings. That's probably going to drive the ownership to those various obvious spots. So how are you handling this, Josh? Because, I'm just looking at our top stacks tool that shows leverage and top stack or ownership, top stack percentage, and that'll give us our leverage. The places that you think are coming in over leveraged are, the places that are definitely priced down: Calgary, Boston, Toronto. How are you going to handle that? Because it's not as if like these are teams in bad situations or anything like that, right? Boston's at home to a Kings team they just obliterated last week. Toronto's on the road with a huge total going into Columbus. Calgary's at home against a dinged up Edmonton team, and they have the third highest total on the slate. So it's not like these are bad teams in bad spots. These are good teams in good spots. Like, what do you make of this pricing? What do you make of the ownership? Like, how do you think, how should people approach this slate here tonight?
Well, pricing is just ridiculous. I mean, 16.9 for Calgary 1. Come on. Get out of here with that crap. 15.8 for Boston. Like, the most expensive line of the night is Toronto 1, 21.5, which is reasonable price for them. But you can fit them with almost anything. Like, the most expensive line after that is Colorado 1 at 18.8. So, like, if you don't play Toronto 1 tonight, you can literally stack together anything you want. So what do you do with ownership? I think for me, as a single entry player, I don't care. Like, ownership isn't a thing for me. I'm going to play my guys. I don't build my lineup in single entry to be unique in the $15 150 max. If I happen to be duped in that, so be it. I don't build, like, as weird as it sounds, I don't build my lineup to win the 15. I build to win single entries. So if I happen to hit the nuts and I win the 15 and I'm duped, so be it. So for me, I play my guys. I play, like, as simple as it sounds, I play my best plays. The only time I concern myself with ownership is if I build like a straightforward 4-3-1. I almost never build that way. I'll play 3-3-2s. I'll power play stack. So, like, for single entry, you just play your guys. You know what I mean? If it comes together too easy, then, maybe, I might be duped in single entry, so be it. You know what I mean? For someone like Jake who plays 150, I think, he likes to be unique on big slates anyway. Tonight, I think he'll make some rules. Like, he'll mix in some power play stacks. He'll probably mix in some 3-2-1 builds, this and that. He'll probably crank up the uniqueness on Fantasy Cruncher a little bit. You know what I mean? So, like, he'll try to, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm putting words in his mouth. I think he's going to find ways to get unique tonight. I think he's probably going to avoid 4-3-1. Like, if I was building 150, I would try to avoid, straightforward 4-3-1s. Maybe I'll go like, 4, full stack with the defenseman, 3 with 2 guys and the power play defenseman, and then 1 off the forward instead of going conventional, 2 lines with the defenseman and then the 1 off defenseman. Like, there's ways to get different. I don't think you have to, like, lose your mind with ownership going, I'm going to, I don't want to play my favorite guy because he's going to be this owned, so I'm going to switch this guy. Doesn't have the, like, don't get in your head with that stuff. You know what I mean? Build your lineup the way you want. And if it comes together too easy, then just know it's not going to be sneaky and it might be dupe, but, like, so what? Would you rather win and tie for first with 2 other people, or, like, go galaxy brain and make a stupid ownership decision and not cash? You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather win money with 2 people than lose money because of an ownership decision I made.
Yeah, ownership, I think, can very much be overblown. We always talk about it because of our top stacks tool and because of the leverage and because it can lead you to good spots. Like, just Saturday night, for example, I thought Calgary 1 was coming in very much under owned. So I went heavy on Calgary 1, and it definitely paid off. Now, you can do that tonight with a line like, the Buffalo top line or the Florida top line or something like that. I think there are definite reasons to kind of fade the chalk. But here's the thing is that it's not as if let's use Calgary's top line, for example. We'll talk about them a little bit later. But Calgary's top line coming in about 23. We have them at 23% top stack, about 26% ownership. Like, that's honestly fine. I think that's fine for a 5-game slate, considering where they're priced. Like you said, even if you're using Calgary 1 plus Anderson, which I'm sure a lot of people are, there are ways to get different with the rest of your lineup. You can go ahead and use a 5% Florida top line, or you can go ahead and use, a lower owned like Calgary or a lower owned Colorado 2 line or something like that. Or maybe you can dip into a little bit of Columbus because, a lot of people aren't going to be on the Columbus top line here tonight going into that Austin Matthews matchup. It's not to say you can't play a 25% line. They're obviously in a great spot. They're a great line with a great price. There are lots of reasons to play them. What I will say, like you said, I know like you getting duped is not as big as a deal. It really isn't. I just try to avoid it for me personally. Like I typically make a lot of 3-2-1 lineups and stuff like that. But I think even if you play a 25% line, you still have 5-6 other roster spots to get different. I don't think it's a huge concern. Like you said, if you like Calgary 1 tonight, you like their spot, you play them, and then you figure out the rest of your lineup to get a bit different, to make sure you're not just slamming chalk on chalk on chalk on chalk. So I think that's just kind of the way I would handle it. That's the way I am handling it tonight, is like, I do like Calgary 1. I do like some spots. We'll talk about those as we go along. I just think ownership is both a good and bad thing. Like, it can get overblown, but at the same time, I think there are times when a line will just get completely overlooked. And those are the nights where, if you're 20 maxing and you see a line that's coming in at 4% that should be coming in at like 10 or 12%, maybe that's a night where you put it in 25% of that line or something like that. And if they can smash, then you'll smash along with them. That's kind of the way I treat ownership. We'll talk about that as we go along through the rest of this show. Without going too much further, we are brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. Yahoo has been our sponsor this entire season. They've been very good sponsors to us, and we in turn have a little deal through Yahoo that we'll talk about a little bit later in the show. For first-time Yahoo users, some free money if you haven't played DFS over on Yahoo just yet. And if you guys could, in the chat, please throw us the thumbs up. Click that like button. It will really help us out a lot. Click the subscribe button. Those subscriptions help us out even more. They keep these shows coming on a regular basis, whether it be NHL, NBA, PGA, MMA, NASCAR, eventually MLB, hopefully. Lots of stuff here. Just click that subscribe button. Help keep these shows coming on a regular basis. And make sure you click that bell. Get the notifications whenever we do go live. Free premium tools and data. We have some up on the site today, as we normally do. We have our NBA player projections and our NHL main slate ownership projections, both up on the site for anybody playing NBA or NHL tonight. We also have a little giveaway through our podcast. So if you just head on over to the Awesemo podcast channel and leave a 5-star review with your Twitter handle or Awesemo username, you'll be entered to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And finally, just want to mention our NBA prop show, Locks Before Lock. We added it a couple weeks ago. Every weekday before the NBA Deeper Dive, 30 minutes before, our Locks Before Lock show is a betting prop show. So head on over to the Odd Shopper YouTube channel for anybody that's interested in some NBA prop betting, and check out Locks Before Lock, 30 minutes every day before the Deeper Dive. All right, let's get to these games, Josh. This first one, Los Angeles, 2.4 implied goal total. They're going into Boston. The Bruins have a 3.5 implied goal total. This is kind of a curious game for me because I think there would, if this game happened 2 weeks ago in Boston, I would say there's absolutely stuff I would want to play on both sides here. But here's the problem, is Los Angeles Jared Anderson Dolan to the top line and moved Alex Iafallo down to the third line. And Jared Anderson Dolan is not a top line winger, definitely not a top line winger on a playoff team going into Boston to face Bergeron or Marchand. On top of that, Victor Arvidsson was hurt yesterday in Los Angeles' game, left after about 11 minutes of ice time, did not return. And because they have no morning skate today, we don't have further information right now on Victor Arvidsson about his availability here tonight. So theoretically, Jared Anderson Dolan on the top line, Dustin Brown taking Victor Arvidsson's spot on the second line. That those look like weak lines to me. Definitely not the lines that we would have played a week or so ago. It's just, Boston has looked a little bit leaky at times. I don't know. Is there anything on the Los Angeles side that excites you here? What do you think about this game?
No, and I went and pulled up while you were talking about our awesome sponsor, Yahoo. I went and pulled up on that stat trick, Jared Anderson, Dolan, Adrian Kempe, and Anze Kopitar's numbers in the past 2 games. Now they're on the road, but they were playing at Columbus and at Buffalo. Now it's a 2-game sample, but those teams are not very good. 50% Corsi for, controlling 56% of the scoring chances, and expected goals for of under 1 in those 2 games. And now they're getting Boston 1, who just been running over everybody. So yeah, they're going to be chalky, whatever. Bergeron and Marchand probably 20%. DeBrusque probably going to be lower owned, but I mean, that Kings line at best is break even in the past 2 games against 2 bad teams. I'm very interested in Boston 1 tonight. There is some concerns with Boston, right? Marchand and Bergeron have only been playing 17 minutes a night, but I think that's kind of baked into the price. We've seen them in the 8Ks at times when they've been playing 19, 20 minutes. This is a very good matchup. So for 6,100, 17 minutes, I think it's fine. Same thing with Pastrnak. He's 6,400, but his minutes have been down as well. They're just spacing out these minutes. Boston already made the playoffs. It's just a matter of where they're going to play in the playoffs, this and that. So yeah, I doubt you're going to see these guys consistently playing 19 to 22 minutes a night. They'll probably be 17, 18 at the high end. But in 18 minutes at that price against that line, I think they can, get there easily. So I'm in on Boston 1. You want to go to Boston 2, that's fine. Arvidsson, if he's out, is a huge, huge loss. He's the straw that stirs the drink in that line. Danault is a very good 2-way player, but Dustin Brown at this stage in his career is a massive drop off from Victor Arvidsson. So I'm fine with Boston 2, but for me, this is a Boston 1 game. Unless, we get word that Arvidsson's in, I'm probably going to be out on the Kings tonight.
Yeah, I could see myself playing some, like you said, some Los Angeles 2 if Victor Arvidsson is in. We talked about it, I think, on Friday's show, that their defensive numbers have slipped a little bit. They're up to about 28 scoring chances against per 60 minutes at 5-on-5, but their offensive numbers are still outstanding. It's just if the 3-man unit needs to be together for that to persist. Like you said, Dustin Brown, there's a reason why even he hasn't been playing on the top line in Los Angeles this year when he's been, a top line staple for them forever. It's because he can't play in the top 6 anymore. The only reason he's there is because, they're kind of running out of options. So yeah, if Arvidsson somehow is in, it would kind of change my outlook a little bit because, Boston's second line is good, but they're not one of the best lines in the league. 55% of the scoring chance share is good, but even that's nowhere, I'd say pretty good, but even that's nowhere near what Los Angeles 2 can do. So if we get some news that Arvidsson is going to be in, I would have no problem playing Los Angeles 2 here tonight. Other than that, if he's out, if they don't change the top line or something like that, I'm just out on Los Angeles forwards, at least in single entry for me here tonight. This is a Boston game for me. The problem, I shouldn't say problem. There is going to be a fair bit of ownership here, but it's not extreme, right? Like, we have to remember, this is only a 5-game slate. You're going to get high ownership on just about every top line on a 5-game slate, right? There are only so many top lines to go around. So, 18% on that Boston 1 line when, they're generating 39 scoring chances per 60 minutes, which is just insane. I have no problem going to that Boston top line, even going into Los Angeles 1. Like, Los Angeles 1 are one of those lines where they need all three need to skate together for them to have to really maximize their value. Like, you take one winger off that line and it does make him a lot weaker. Even if you put Jared Anderson-Dole in there, who's not terrible, but he's, like I said, he's not a top line winger. So I love Boston 1 going into that matchup. Los Angeles' top line without Iafallo or Victor Arvidsson on the right wing, 52% of the scoring chances. It's fine, but it's definitely not what Boston can do. So Boston 1, Boston 2 if Arvidsson is out. If not, I don't mind playing some Los Angeles 2, maybe in your 20 max or 150s, certainly. I would play a little bit of Boston 3 here tonight, depending on what happens with lineups, because Dustin Brown could end up on the second line, and they have some wingers hurt. Craig Smith is just shooting the heck out of the puck. Like, he's at like 23 shot attempts per 60 minutes over his last like 5 weeks or something like that. Like, that's high. And if the team is going to start taking minutes away from the top line, those minutes have to go somewhere. Second, third, fourth lines typically. So don't mind like a 2-man of like Coyle and Smith if you want to fit in like a super expensive Edmonton power play stack or something like that. But otherwise, Boston 1. On the blue line, on the Kings side, I think the only guy I might look at is Olli Maatta, min price for some shot blocks. Like, Sean Durzi, you and I both like him, but he's down to like 16, 17 minutes a night of late, and 16 minutes on the road against Boston. It's not going to do it. I'd rather just go to Maatta for super min price. McAvoy, very reasonably priced at 4,800 on DraftKings. I don't mind him over on FanDuel either site for me today. Like some McAvoy. What do you think?
And Grzelcyk is a game time decision, I believe. If he's out and like Derek Forbert moves up, something like that, min price is fine there. But McAvoy is so cheap on DK. If you're playing Boston 1, you should think about correlating there.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And in fact, I'm just looking at his FanDuel value. We have him as the best value over on FanDuel for any defenseman under $6,000 here tonight. So yeah, either site fine for Charlie McAvoy. All right, Florida 4.0 implied goal total going into Buffalo. The Sabres have a 2.6 implied goal total. This is the game I'm most interested in. We talked about ownership earlier. There's absolutely no ownership coming in on the Florida top line. I mean, not almost no ownership, under 5%, under 10% on the second line as well. This is a team with a 4 total going up against a bottom 3, bottom 5 defensive team in the league. The reason they don't have much high ownership, at least over on DK, obviously is because of all the misprices that we talked about earlier between Boston and Calgary and Toronto and all that. So Florida is an elite offensive team with a 4 total and some pretty reasonable ownership. On the flip side, Buffalo 1 also coming in with very reasonable ownership for their top line, and their prices have come down a little bit as well. So I think there's a lot to play on both sides here. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, and it's Spencer Knight, not Bobrovsky. Like, long term, I do really like Spencer Knight. Short term, he's been really bad.
Like, there's a reason why Bobrovsky's been like the bulk starter, even when he's not playing super well.
Yeah. I mean, like, on top of that, like, Florida's pretty high event anyway. So, like, I don't know. I think on the Florida side, I would power play stack. Like, just lock in Barkov and go Barkov, Huberdeau, Duclair. I don't really like going like across 3 even strength lines, but I even don't mind Barkov, Huberdeau, Reinhardt's. Like, Reinhardt's been really, really good on the power play this season. So it's not like he's on a bad 5-on-5 line either. Like, that third line is pretty good. So, and they're going to get depth of Buffalo, which is bad. So, like, I think you can mix and match some power play here. If you want to just like straight out flat out stack the second line, I think that's fine as well. I just like Sam Bennett's minutes are concerned, especially when he's getting up to 6,400. Like when he was like 5,000 last week, and he's playing like 15, 16 minutes, that's fine. But I don't know if I want to pay 6,400 for power play 2 for 14, 15 even strength minutes. Like I just don't know. I'd rather just play with the pricing as soft as it is. I'd rather just play them, Huberdeau and Duclair with Barkov and just call it a day. On the Buffalo side, I do like the Buffalo top line. Like as long as Tuck is in, he took a nasty spill into the net. But he was on the ice for morning skate. He should be in tonight. It's a 2.6 total, which like for the Sabres is pretty good. Like I just, like the Spencer Knight factor, how much do you factor that in? Like, I don't know, because like goalies just go through it some of these times, like they struggle, and then all of a sudden it just like the light goes on and they're unstoppable. So like I don't put much stock into it, but like the Buffalo top line has been for Buffalo very good off. Like their defensive numbers aren't great, but offensively they're still creating a bunch of chances. So I'm in on Buffalo 1. I think they're a nice contrarian stack tonight with all the cheaper top, lines and bigger totals. So I think getting in some Buffalo 1 definitely makes some sense to me. You want to go to Buffalo 2, like Cousins, Okposo, like they've been very good for a few weeks now. So I'm fine with them as well.
Yeah, I do think there is stuff to like up and down both lineups on both sides. I do like the Buffalo top line here tonight. 31 scoring chances per 60 minutes over the last 100 minutes together, controlling 55% of the scoring chances. Like it's pretty good. It's not super elite, but it's pretty good. And 2.6 total at home, like you said, going up against Spencer Knight. Spencer Knight has a save percentage under 900 so far this season. It's only 18 games. But he's still just a 20-year-old goalie. Like it's not often a goalie can step in the league at 19, 20 years old and just be good. It takes some time. So I do like Buffalo 1 here today going up against that Florida top line. The Florida top line doesn't really have a sample together. But Barkov and Verhaeghe have typically been very good together. Marchman has been very good on the third line. So it's not like they're going to be bad or anything like that. I do think it could be a tough matchup for a tough-ish matchup for Buffalo 1 going into that Florida top line. But again, like you mentioned with Spencer Knight in net, it kind of changes the equation a little bit. As far as the Florida side, I kind of agree with the Florida power play stack, mainly because I don't really want to stack the even strength lines. I don't want to stack the top line. Let's just say that. I want to get some pieces of their power play, but I also want to get Alexander Barkov here tonight because I do think that top line for Florida is coming in very much under-owned. And I think getting at least Barkov with some of the power play guys makes a lot of sense for that, for this particular matchup. So Florida power play, Florida 1. Even Florida 2, they are fairly high event, but they still control 55% of the scoring chances. So they should be able to get some run of the play. Down to the third lines, I don't think we have to go that deep on the Buffalo side. They're not awful, but honestly, if I'm just going to go down to a third line, then I'm probably going to just go down to the Florida third line. And I wonder if just not full stacking them wouldn't be the way to go, because I think you might get some people leaving off Frank for Toronto, given that, Lundell's the center, Reinhardt's on the power play, but Toronto's kind of a third wheel. I think that might be a good way to stack them if you're worried about them coming in with reasonable ownership. So I do like Florida top to bottom here in this game, but it's going to be their power play guys that I'm going to be focusing on in particular. Buffalo 1 as well. Buffalo 2, two-man Cousins, Okposo, Middlestat, something like that. I think it's just fine as well. They've also been playing a little bit more, 17, 18 minutes of late. Definitely perfectly fine for a second line. On the blue line, there's just not a lot that I like from Buffalo other than Dahlin. Like I might have to, the way I'm building tonight, I might have to end up with a punt. So, Pysyk always grades out reasonably well for us as a punt from Buffalo. But I think, if he can get up to Dahlin, go up and pay for him. Mackenzie Weegar at $5K, I think is a very reasonable price for him on the road. But those other guys like Montour and Forsling and all that starting to get expensive. What do you think?
Yeah, if you're gonna do power play stuff, you can get in Ekblad. I think you do it. If not, Uyghur is fine. I think from the punt side, it would probably just be Radko Goodass at 2,800. Like, yeah, Forsling's nice and he plays minutes, but 3,700, I'd rather save the 900 if you need it and just go down to his partner, Radko at Awesemo.com. We love a good ass.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. All right. Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our top stacks, our lineup builder, and a whole lot more. Of course, if you're only looking to play NHL DFS, then you can sign up for one of our Awesemo Plus NHL packages for as low as $3.95 a week. Please note that Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and can be easily added on to any of these packages at checkout, but it is not included in the base package. It is a very valuable addition to your DFS arsenal for anyone looking to multi-enter contests, so stop guessing and start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. All right, let's get to this. Here we go. Our favorite game on the slate. Toronto 4.0 implied goal total going into Columbus. The Jackets have a 2.9 implied goal total. We talked about how some of the prices for Toronto are very reasonable. Now, obviously, Austin Matthews is still incredibly expensive at 9,200 over on DraftKings, but John Tavares, his price has come down. I saw our chat say that his price is actually just where it should be, and I honestly can't really disagree with that. Mitch Marner, his price has come down from the last game. Michael Bunting, his price has come down from their last game. Nick Robertson, slated to start on the second line with Toronto. In our last show on Saturday, I talked about how coaches have binkies and how coaches go back to favorite players, even though, there's no reason to go back to them. Guess what Toronto did in Saturday night's game? Alex Kerfoot went right back to the second line during the third period. Now, he only stayed there for a few shifts or something like that, but man alive, like, that's the problem with playing Nick Robertson on any given night, is that he doesn't have the trust of the coach for whatever reason. Alex Kerfoot does. And if Robertson has like two bad shifts in a row, he's on the bench and Kerfoot is going to be back in his spot. Like, that's just the way it is. So that's my kind of issue with stacking a super cheap Toronto 2 here tonight. But man, it's a 4 total in a great spot. What do you think about this game?
I wonder if anyone showed Sheldon Keefe the Toronto 2 numbers against Vancouver that night. Like, they gave up 6 goals, but Toronto 2 was not on the ice for any of them. And they scored. They had a 58% Corsi. There was 10 shots, 9-4, 1 against in that game. Like, show them the numbers. Like, you put Kerfoot and the numbers just like, whee, they tumble down the hill. So, like, yeah, I don't know. But, like, Toronto 2 is going to be very chalky, like, because they are, like, free for Toronto 2. And, it's Columbus, who've been, awful defensively. Their saving grace is, their goaltending has been absolutely bonkers recently. Like, Berube's gone nuts. Like, Merzlikins, I really like as a goalie. Thing is, like, tonight, like, Matthews, Marner, Bunting on DraftKings, only line over 20K, and you'd think it would lower their ownership. And maybe it has, because 25% Matthews on a 5-game slate it seems lower than it normally is. Like, yeah, maybe he'll end up 35% or something like that. But if you full stack Toronto 1 tonight, I think you'll get them around 20%, because people are just going to leave Bunting off tonight, I think. Marner's prices come down 700, 7,500, whatever. Like, that's a price where you can just stack him with Matthews, put him with, 5,600 Nylander and call it a day. Now, that line is an abomination. Like, yeah, they suck defensively, but they always seem to get there. So, like, it is what it is. Like, Line is just going to break analytics. He's one of those players that, like, you're going to have to ignore sometimes when you're looking at analytics, because he is one of the best shooters in the NHL. He just, his defensive numbers are awful. So it's just like the possession numbers for Columbus are going to be terrible. It's just what it's going to be. And, like, again, I just don't know if I want to get to hop on the Line A train while he's shooting 30-something% over the last 6 weeks. Like, he's going to have some negative regression. If you want to play Columbus 1 tonight, by all means, do it. Like, I think it's a nice way to get contrarian. Same with Buffalo 1. Like, the Jackets have a 2.9 total. That's nothing to shy away from, especially with the Leafs. Like, Jack Campbell, there's a reason he's not starting. He's been terrible. Peter Mrazek has not been much better. Let's be honest. And their blue line isn't very good. So while, like, yeah, the Leafs could put up 6 goals in this game easily, I wouldn't even bat my eyes if they did. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they gave up 4. So if you want to go to Columbus 1, I think that's fine. You want to go to Columbus 2, I think that's also fine. Like, Bjorkstrand, 4,100 top power play tonight is very cheap. Voracek also on that line, top power play 3,500. Roslovic 2,900. Like, that line is 10,500 to full stack. Like, Toronto 2, yeah, they're better with Robertson, but like you said, good chance we see Kerfoot back there at some point, and the numbers with Kerfoot are just awful. So I think, going to Columbus top 6, especially in MME, is a nice way to get it a little bit different, because a lot of people are just going to force in, the Calgarys and the cheaper Toronto 2s and this and that. Like, not many people are going to go to Buffalo. Not many people are going to Columbus. So I think, we talked about ownership and single entry. We didn't really touch on an MME. I think, getting to some of these lower owned lines in Columbus makes some sense in MME. On the Toronto side, like, I'm fine with full stacking Toronto 1. You want to leave off Bunting, I think that's fine. But if you're going to leave off Bunting, you should at least add in Riley or add in Tavares or add in Nylander just to get a little bit different. You know what I mean? Like, just to get the extra power play correlation. I think also full stacking that line is fine. They are getting that general line 8 matchup, and yeah, their defensive numbers are bad, and they are bad defensively. So I think top 6 of Toronto is fine. I just go to Toronto 1. I just do not like that ownership. Like, we talk about, like, ownership doesn't matter. It matters if you're playing an overowned line that you just don't really like. And I'm not a huge fan of that second line, just because, like people have said, Tavares has not been great and their minutes aren't great, and Robertson may not be there. There's factors where I don't want to play a 20 plus Toronto 2. So I'd rather just go to Toronto 1.
I think if I were to play some guys from Toronto too, like Nylander and Tavares, I would just make it a power play stack. That's kind of the way that I can't see myself just 3-man stacking that Toronto second line. So I agree with you. 1, like, way over owned. 2, not a great line. We talked about, here are the numbers with and without Kerfoot. 62% of the scoring chances when they don't have him, 52% when they do have him. Like, they go from a super elite line to just above average. It's crazy how much he's hurting that line. But again, not sure Nick Robertson's going to last more than a period there. So I think if I'm going to use Tavares, it's stacking him with Matthews and Marner, or, with Matthews and Riley or something like that. So I would probably just go Toronto power. If I'm using Nylander and Tavares, it's in a power play stack. I'm not stacking that second line. I just like the top line a lot better. Great leverage, great line. You talked about how bad the Columbus top line is defensively. That's going to be the matchup for Toronto 1 here in this game. And Columbus's top line is controlling 35% of the scoring chances in their last 100 minutes together, which I didn't think was possible for a top line on any team. But I can't believe Toronto's going to get that matchup here tonight. So I do like Toronto 1 quite a bit in this matchup, especially if people are going to fade them to go play some way chalkier spots. Toronto 1, if you want Toronto power play, that's fine. On the Columbus side, I agree with you. I would stay away from the top line here tonight. It is going to that second line that I like. Voracek and Bjorkstrand have typically looked at least from fine to good somewhere this year. So don't mind them going to that Toronto second line, especially if Kerfoot finds his way back there at some point. On the blue line, Jake Bean looks like he's going to be back in the lineup tonight for Columbus. That might take a little bit of ice time away from Werenski, who had been above 30 in each of his last 2 games. Now, both overtime games, but still, he would have been around 26 or 27 anyway. Gavrikov and Peak is still fairly expensive. Liljegren on the top pair, 2,600, is the guy that really sticks out to me in this game. What do you think for defensemen?
Yeah, just real quick, I feel like this is a good time since we're just destroying the Leafs. The Leafs traded for Jared McCann so they could expose him to keep Alex Kerfoot. Just think about that.
Thank you for bringing that up because I forgot about that. I always think it was like Justin Hall, but no, it was Alex Kerfoot. Oh man, I love that team. Yeah, nobody else really sticks out. I mean, maybe Werenski, like he's been on a nice little tear here. Still 2.9 total, but
there's not many spend up options for defensemen tonight. You know what I mean?
that's the
like,
thing. Yeah.
So I think Werenski is interesting because he's cheaper than Ekblad. You know, he's fairly cheap compared to like the other top end guys. So yeah, I think he makes some sense. Like Gavrikov and Peak in the high threes. Like I wish they were a bit cheaper. They're fine. I prefer when they're in the low threes because you need a little bit more than the shot block bonus to get there. On the Leaf side, I'm fine with Logren as long as he's still in that top pair. That's really about it outside of correlating Riley.
Yep, I agree. We have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NHL season to bring you some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which can get you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link below, deposit and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you played in your first paid contest, and we will reach out via email with your coupon. If you'd like to speed up the process of getting access, email support@awesemo.com, and we'll get you set up right away. You can also claim a free $10 of site credit by clicking the link in the video description below, and that can be used to enter any Yahoo contest, including tonight's $2,000 NHL Baller. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. All right, we got another pretty important game coming up. We have the Colorado Avalanche with a 3.5 implied goal total. They're going into New York to face the Islanders. The Islanders have a 2.5 implied goal total. Still no Matt Barzal for the Islanders. They were hoping he'd be back for tonight, but he's not. So the top line is going to be what had been their old second line of Anthony Beauvillier, Brock Nelson, and Josh Bailey. Second line looks to be Kiefer Bellows, Jean-Gabriel Pajot, and Kyle Palmieri. On the Colorado side, Valerie Nichushkin came back over the weekend, but they're leaving Gabriel Landeskog on that line, it looks like, with Andrei Burakovsky on the top line. So that kind of gives them 2 even-ish lines, I would say. Also moves Alex Newhook where he should be, back down on the third line. All right. Devin Taves, he just put up a 3-point game against the Islanders last week, I believe. Now he goes back into New York to face the Islanders. Obviously, we're going to talk about defensemen in a little bit, but 3.5 total for Colorado on the road. That's not nothing. What do you like here, Josh?
Yeah, I'm wondering how they're going to match because, man, Zach Parise, third line center.
I think you're going to see Pajot and Palmieri be the shutdown line here tonight, or at least, take a fair bit of the top line matchups, if not, be the strict shutdown line.
Yeah, and I mean, they don't have great. I mean, they're okay defensively, but not like an okay line. It's not going to shut down McKinnon, Rantanen, Burakovsky. Like they keep on rolling with Burakovsky up there. Like they're closing in on a 150-minute sample. 60% Corsi for, almost 3 expected goals for per 60. Like that line's just rolling. That second line with Landeskog, Kadri, Nichushkin, like 40-minute sample. It's a small sample. Almost 4 goals for per 60. Like that line is just cruising as well. I like both of the top 6 lines here for Colorado. It kind of depends how you want to build. Like if you're going mid-range, I think you can go Colorado 2 here. You're looking for more expensive. Colorado 1's the most expensive line on DK outside of Toronto 1, but it's only 18.8, which isn't cost prohibitive. Like it's not going to clamp you down at all. So I'm fine with either of them. There's not a matchup that really scares me. Like if Colorado 2 gets Beauvillier, Nelson, Bailey, like fine. They've been awful this year. So like whatever. If for some reason like either of the top 6 lines get Lee, Parise, Wahlstrom, like they're just going to absolutely just run them over. So I do really like Colorado tonight. That second line, like both of these lines are coming in fairly low owned just because, I don't know, it's a lower-ish total than the sum up row teams, 3.5. I don't know why. Like I'm fine with the top line ownership at 13%. That second line is coming in around 7%. I think like depending what I want to do, like if I was going to play like super chalk Calgary tonight, I would maybe go Colorado 2 here, but like I haven't built my lineup yet. I was messing around with some builds, so you could literally fit anything, but like I generally do like Colorado 2 tonight. They've been very good. It does feel bad leaving off like McKinnon and Rantanen, but the thing is like we talked about, the Islanders don't take penalties, so you don't need the power play correlation here tonight. You're fine just 5-on-5 stacking. So, Valerie Nichushkin at 3,400 seems underpriced for what he does. So I think Colorado 2 is actually my favorite line on the Avs. On the Islanders side, like I don't know. Like this is not a good matchup for them. They're missing, Barzal, who, if I didn't know what the injury was, I'd probably think he was out with a back injury from carrying the team. But like without him, their offense takes a massive hit. Like he's easily their best playmaker. Without him, like who's creating for them? So I'm probably out on the Islanders.
Assuming that Pajot and Palmieri go out against the top line, which I think they will, they're not a terrible line. They don't have a big sample, 48% of the shot share, 55% of the scoring chances. That's fine. I think, Colorado 1 can definitely get there. But that Islanders top line, Beauvillier, Nelson, and Bailey, like we've talked about it quite often on the show over the course of the season, or over at least the last month or so. Josh Bailey has just had an atrocious season for the New York Islanders. If you go look at any line he's played with, he's dragged down their numbers. Every single line he's played with has been considerably better without him than with him. And if Beauvillier, Nelson, and Bailey are going to go out against that Colorado second line of Kadri, Landeskog, and Nichushkin, then yeah, I agree with you. I do like that Colorado second line here in this game. Colorado 1, just fine to use. They're coming in with great leverage. I think they're one of the better lines on the slate. Semyon Varlamov is in net for the Islanders, not Sorokin. So, assuming there's no revenge narrative there or something, Sorokin's, I believe, is the better goalie at this point. So it's an advantage for Colorado. Yeah, I do like, I agree with you on Colorado too. A nice little filler here, more on the expensive side of a filler, but again, with the pricing here tonight, it doesn't really matter. Colorado 1, I really do like a fair bit here as well. I think I would probably build around Colorado 1 a little bit more, but either of the lines I think are just fine here. The reason for that is Colorado 1 has really looked great in their sample together. 40 scoring chances per 60 minutes. Like it's not as if Burakovsky has been a big drop off from Landeskog. That line is still just rolling with them. So Colorado 1 perfectly fine. Colorado 2 in a great spot. Probably nothing from me from the Islanders side. I honestly believe if I were to play anything, it would be the Pajot, Palmieri, and Bellows line. Pajot and Palmieri had, like I said, typically been fine together this year. Bellows, like he's a shot bot. He's a Luke Cunnin or something like that. It's fine. You can leave him off. Just not a whole lot I like from the Islanders forwards. It's the Islanders defensemen that I have more interest in this game. I think Noah Dobson's kind of in that no man's land where he's not going to get a ton of ownership because people will just play, Taves at 5,100 or Darnell Nurse at 6K or something like that, and leave Dobson alone in that 2.5 total. And he's a guy that can put up peripheral shots and blocks and score and do all that. So don't mind him as a GPP one-off here tonight, actually. On the Colorado side, like I said, Devin Taves, 5,100. Pretty tough to pass that up. What else do you like?
Yeah, I agree with those two. Like, I think like if you want to play Makar, that's fine. He's fine. I'd rather play Taves for the 1,600 savings. I agree with Dobson. I also agree with Pulak. Like his minutes are up, and he's 4,500 on the top pair now. So I'm fine with Pulak as a one-off. Like he has a shot at a combo. He's like a combo meal type player. If he gets the minutes. So I'm fine with him as well.
Yep, I agree with that. A little bit earlier, we mentioned the Odd Shopper YouTube channel. Odd Shopper here at Awesemo is a free service that we provide. Just go to oddshopper.com, ODDS shopper.com. And anybody that sports bets in legal states in America can shop their props, whether it's NBA, we have college basketball up, and we just added NHL prop bets as well. So if you're playing on PointsBet, FanDuel, MGM, DraftKings, what have you, You can see the best, you can shop for the best bets, for the best props. And it is very helpful, even if you're not sports betting, it is very helpful for a DFS process to just kind of see where our projections are at, what Vegas thinks, whether, a guy can get there or is likely to get there. So, there are some players that are very worthwhile looking at. We'll talk about Edmonton next, but we actually have Evander Kane for under 3.5 shots, as we have him projected for 3.4. His over under is at 3.5. So the over, pretty close, and you're getting plus money on it. So might not be a bad idea. We just talked about Zach Werenski. We have him as an anytime goal scorer, scoring in about a quarter of his games, if not more. And he's plus 450 over on PointsBet. So those are the kinds of shopping that you can do over on OddsShopper to see what the best price is for your prop bet. So head on over to oddshopper.com, see what we have to offer. Once again, we are brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. Yahoo has been our sponsor all season long. And if you're new to DFS, just click the Yahoo link below for first-time users over on Yahoo and get a little bit of free money, $10 in site credit as well. Coming up a little bit later, we have that Locks Before Lock show I did mention coming up at 4:30 Eastern with Eric and Ben, and then the deeper dive and live before lock comes up after that. All right, we got one more game to get through. Before we get through that game, if you guys in the chat, throw us a like. If you could, those likes help us. The subscriptions help us even more. If you haven't clicked that subscribe button yet, please do so. It'll really help keep these shows coming on a daily basis. All right, let's get to that final game, Josh. We have the Edmonton Oilers with a 2.7 implied goal total. They're going into Calgary. The Calgary Flames have a 3.7 implied goal total. There was some news here. Calgary changed up their lines. They moved Trevor Lewis to the second line with Blake Coleman and Michael Backlund. Andrew Mangiapane is down on the third line with Tyler Toffoli and Adam Ruzicka. That moves Sean Monahan and Milan Lucic down to the fourth line. Now, it seems like they're doing this because they're going to put out Coleman, Backlund, and Trevor Lewis against Connor McDavid all game long. Don't know why you couldn't just leave Andrew Mangiapane there, but okay. Again, this is the spot where a lot of the top-end Calgary Flames forwards have been priced down. They're going to come in with a fairly heavy ownership here tonight. On the flip side, Edmonton is Edmonton, and they're not coming in very highly owned. I see Connor McDavid under 10% on a 5-game slate. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, and I went and looked up to see if Mangiapane and Adam Ruzicka, it's a fun name to say, I probably just said it wrong, had a sample together. They played 8 minutes together this season, and in those 8 minutes, they've managed a Corsi for percentage of 82%. They've gotten 10 shots on the net. So, with Toffoli there, that could be a spicy third line. That being said, I don't know. I don't know if there's a need for Calgary 3 tonight. I think, Toffoli is fine because he's on the top power play. I think maybe I'll save that line for a bigger slate that you need salary savings, because that could be a pretty spicy third line going forward, kind of a la, Florida 3. Now, moving Trevor Lewis up to that second line, I agree with you. They're just going to hem down McDavid tonight. I don't know why they needed to move Lewis there, but I don't know. For me, that just leaves Calgary 1. They're going to be over-owned tonight because they're very cheap. But again, this is an excellent power play spot. Edmonton's penalty kill has not been great. It's a good 5-on-5 matchup for Calgary 1. So you want to play Calgary 1? Play Calgary 1. I'm heavily considering playing Calgary 1. Now, there's a couple factors that maybe maybe you can fade, very chalk Calgary 1. They play tomorrow against Tampa. So if this game gets out of hand, they'll be playing very low minutes, not high minutes. On top of that, outside of, even if this is a close game, there have been games this season, because the Flames are going to make the playoffs, where Gaudreau and Tkachuk have played 15, 16 minutes. Another reason they mix up these lines, because it looks like they want to roll 4 lines. So the top line, it does worry me a little bit. Now at 16-9, sure, if they score 2 full line goals, hoorah, like they hit their. But if this line was like 19 something, like they should be, like I'd have pretty big concerns. But tonight, I think outside of them being on the front end of back-to-back, and if it gets out of hand, like, yeah, they're going to rest their guys. I don't have too much concern outside of, them maybe being like 35%. But, at the price with the matchup, it is probably my favorite spot of the night. That being said, if you want to get different, you add in a Toffoli, you just go Calgary 1 plus Toffoli, you can full on power play stack. There's ways to get different. That third line is interesting to me. Like, I just don't know if you need to do it tonight. Like, Mangiapane, Toffoli, in theory, should be a good 2-man, especially against Edmonton depth. So, like, if you're 150 maxing and you want to get weird, I think that's fine. It's a good way to get different. But for me, it's Calgary 1, Calgary power play. I think Tyler Toffoli is a good one-off. Like, we're projecting him for 5.8% tonight, which is fine for a one-off on the top power play against bottom 6 matchups of the Oilers. On the Oilers side, another very good GPP play. It's a tough matchup, but again, Flames play tomorrow. They might be thinking ahead. They're playing the Lightning tomorrow, so who knows? I think I do the same thing I always do with Edmonton. Put in McDavid, put in Draisaitl, put in both, and then build around them with Kane and Hyman. And if Bouchard's a game time decision, if he's out, Nurse becomes automatic power play 1.
Yeah, the one thing I'll mention about Edmonton is, like, Calgary has an excellent penalty kill, but they do take a lot of penalties. They're kind of like the Carolina Hurricanes in that sense. And, we saw, I forget what game it was just a couple games ago, the Carolina Hurricanes, they have this historically great penalty kill, but they take too many penalties. And I forget who they were playing against, but they allowed 2 or 3 power play goals or power play goals against in that game. So, like, if you end up taking 4 or 5 penalties against this Edmonton team, there is still enough top end skill here to just absolutely torch it. So, anytime you can get Connor McDavid at like 8, 9, 10% on a 5-game slate, it has to be heavily, heavily considered. I don't care what the matchup is. And you're going to tell me that Calgary just broke up one of the best second lines in hockey to put Trevor Lewis there for this shutdown matchup? Like, I think there are a lot of reasons to at least, consider a McDavid one-off, if not, just play that top line / power play outright. So I don't mind the McDavid line here in this game, just 2-man McDavid Hyman if you want to do that, just one-off McDavid. Like, we talk about how you don't want to one-off a 40% Austin Matthews. You can one-off a 9% Connor McDavid. So I do like Edmonton 1 here. In this game, in your 20 max, in your 150s, I will be considering them at the very least in my single entry. On the Calgary side, I agree with you on the third line. I like the idea of Mangiapane and Toffoli being a duo together. How Ruzicka kind of figures into that, I'm not sure. But Mangiapane and Toffoli at least look like they are guys that could drive high danger chances. Let's just say that. And if that's going to be the case against an Edmonton third line playing some AHLers there as it is, like, I think Calgary 3 makes sense if you're doing like a Toronto 1 stack or a Colorado power play stack or something like that. Yeah, I don't mind that. Obviously, Calgary 1, arguably the best value on the entire slate. Not a whole lot to say there. On the blue line, Darnell Nurse for me from the Edmonton side. I assume if Bouchard is out, that CC at the least should get a fair bit of ice time. Don't mind him. On the Calgary side, there's just nobody that I really want to play. They're starting to spread out the ice time. So unless I'm correlating Anderson with the top power play, nothing from me from Calgary.
I agree. Hannafin and Shillington, a little too expensive for me. Tanev is fine. I wish he was under 3K.
Yep, I agree with that. All right. We got to get out of here, Josh. I'm going to ask you for your hat trick picks and your goalies here. My hat trick pick for tonight, Patrice Bergeron, and my goalies, Linus Ullmark and Jacob Markstrom. If you really want to get spicy, some Elvis Merzlikins. Who do you got?
I agree there. I think Pavel Francouz is okay. Like, I don't know. Like, I see Spencer Knight right now projected at 26%. Like, that makes me want to play Buffalo a lot more. Anyway, my hat trick pick, I'm going to go a little spicy tonight. I'm going to go Corsi HL's boy, Valerie Nishushkin.
Oh, I love it. Valerie Nichushkin, Patrice Bergeron, Arya hat trick picks for tonight. We are out of here. Locks Before Lock, NBA prop betting show coming up in about 90 minutes over on the Odd Shopper YouTube channel. We will be back for a monster 11-game slate, I think we have tomorrow night. Until then, for producer Mike, for single entry assassin Joshua Harris, I'm Michael Clifford saying good luck tonight, everybody.